Most people spend their entire lives working hard, saving carefully, and still wonder why they never seem to get ahead. They follow the rules. They show up on time. They give their best years to a job. But something always feels off. The gap between them and the truly wealthy just keeps growing. The answer is not about effort. It is not about talent either. It is about something far quieter, far more powerful, and most people never talk about it. It is ownership. In a capitalist world, what someone owns determines how far they go. Not what they do, not how hard they grind, what they own. The foundation, why ownership is the real currency of capitalism. Capitalism, at its core, is a system built on one simple principle: private ownership. The person who owns the asset holds the power. This is not a modern idea. It stretches back centuries, when feudal societies began to collapse and land ownership started shifting from monarchies and nobility into private hands. As trade and industry grew, the rules of ownership expanded beyond land. Factories, machines, patents, stocks, and businesses all became forms of property that could generate wealth not through labor, but through possession. The distinction matters enormously. There are two kinds of property in a capitalist economy: personal property and productive property. Personal property is a house to live in, a car to drive, clothes in a closet. Productive property is a rental home, a factory, a business, a stock portfolio. Productive property does not just sit there, it generates income, compounds value, and builds power over time, while the owner does nothing but hold the deed. This compounding effect is what separates the wealthy from everyone else. A person who owns shares in a growing company wakes up every morning a little richer, whether they worked that day or not. A person who owns only their labor wakes up every morning with the same amount, exactly zero, until they clock in and start trading hours for money. Elon Musk did not become the world's richest person because he worked harder than a factory worker in Detroit.
I wouldn't, for the prototype at least, I would recommend not dropping anything when you're near it.
He became wealthy because he owned equity, first in Zippy2, then in PayPal, then in Tesla, SpaceX, and beyond. With each company, his ownership stake meant that as the business grew, his wealth multiplied. The work of thousands of employees created value, but the ownership captured that value. That is the silent mechanism at the heart of capitalism. Intellectual property follows the same logic. When Jay-Z built his music catalog and later his business empire,
to kill people, we can spend billions and billions of dollars to help people live, and we appreciate all y'all help.
he understood that owning masters, owning brands, and owning equity was infinitely more powerful than simply being talented. He famously restructured his career around ownership, from Tidal to Armand de Brignac Champagne to his stake in the streaming era. Talent opened the door. Ownership built the house. The compounding machine. How ownership multiplies wealth over time. There is a reason the rich keep getting richer. It is not luck, and it is not a conspiracy. It is a mathematical reality baked into the structure of ownership itself. Assets generate returns. Returns purchase more assets. More assets generate more returns. The cycle feeds itself, and it accelerates the longer it runs. Real estate is one of the oldest and most visible examples of this phenomenon. A person who buys a property and rents it out earns monthly income without performing labor for that income. They then use that income to purchase a second property, then a third. Over decades, the portfolio grows through both rental income and appreciation in property value. The owner is not working harder. The ownership is doing the work. This is precisely how figures like Donald Bren.
For more than 75 years, Urban Land Institute has brought together leaders from around the country.
The real estate billionaire who built his fortune through the Irvine Company quietly accumulated one of the largest private real estate empires in American history. He did not build a viral app or invent a product. He owned land, managed it, and let time do the rest. The stock market operates on the same principle at scale. Warren Buffett, perhaps the most studied investor in history.
Second stock I bought was a company called Texas Pacific Land Trust. And that came out of the bankruptcy of the Texas and Pacific Railroad back.
Built his fortune not by flipping stocks in a frenzy, but by owning equity stakes in businesses he believed in for decades. Buffett's wealth is not the result of exceptional labor. It is the result of exceptional ownership, choosing the right companies, buying equity, and holding it while the businesses grew and the market rewarded that growth. His holding company, Berkshire Hathaway, is essentially a machine for owning productive assets. The businesses inside it work. The employees inside them produce. Buffett's ownership captures a portion of that production every single year. Meanwhile, the average worker participates in this system primarily as a producer, not an owner. They generate value for the businesses they work in, receive a wage in return, and rarely accumulate meaningful ownership stakes. This is not an accident of nature. It reflects the structural logic of capitalism that ownership and labor are separated, and ownership captures the greater share of the returns. The gap this creates is staggering. Wealth concentration in capitalist societies consistently trends upward. A small fraction of the population holds the overwhelming majority of financial assets, corporate equity, and productive land. The cycle of accumulation runs on its own momentum, growing wider with each generation. The shift in thinking, how anyone can begin to leverage the power of ownership. Understanding how ownership works does not require becoming a billionaire. It requires a fundamental shift in how a person thinks about money, effort, and time. Most people are taught to earn and spend. Ownership thinking means earning, then converting a portion of those earnings into assets that will work independently of further labor. The entry points are more accessible today than at almost any point in history. Stock market investing allows ordinary individuals to own tiny fractions of the world's largest companies. Exchange-traded funds let a person with a modest monthly contribution own a slice of hundreds of businesses at once. Real estate crowdfunding platforms have lowered the barrier to property ownership. The mechanisms exist. The mindset is what most people are never taught. Oprah Winfrey is one of the most cited examples of this ownership shift in popular culture.
So when I first started having conversations with families from...
She began her career as a television host, trading labor and talent for income. But somewhere along the way, she made a different kind of move. She negotiated ownership of her show. She created Harpo Productions, owning the production company behind her content. She took equity stakes in businesses she endorsed. When she invested in Weight Watchers and the company's stock price surged, it was not because she went to work at their offices. Her ownership did the work. That is how she crossed from high earner to genuine capitalist. Rihanna followed a similar path.
At doing other accents, but I've had to learn how to adjust my accent a bit for the sake of interviews.
Her success in music was substantial, but her transformation into a billionaire came through ownership, specifically, her equity stake in Fenty Beauty and Savage x Fenty. She did not just lend her name to those brands, she owned significant portions of them. As they grew, so did her wealth, independent of how many albums she released or concerts she performed. The message these examples carry is not that everyone will become a billionaire. The message is that the mechanism is real, it is accessible at any scale, and it works the same way whether someone owns a fraction of an S&P 500 index fund or a controlling stake in a global enterprise. Ownership compounds, labor does not. The critical first step is recognizing the difference between the two. Every paycheck represents labor income, money traded for time. Every asset purchased represents a step toward ownership income, money that generates more money without requiring the trade of additional time. The more a person shifts their financial activity toward the second category, the more they begin to participate in capitalism, not just as a worker, but as an owner. Capitalism does not reward effort alone, it rewards position, and position in a capitalist system is defined by what someone holds title to. The wealthy are not hiding a secret. They are simply living by a rule that most people were never taught in school. It is not about working smarter or working harder. It is about owning more. Owning land, owning equity, owning intellectual property, owning businesses, and letting the compounding nature of those assets quietly, patiently, and relentlessly build a kind of power that no paycheck ever could. That is the silent power of ownership in capitalism. And now, the question is simple: on which side of it does someone choose to stand?